And welcome everybody. It's lovely to see you here this morning. I'm in West Yorkshire and it's very windy, so I'm hoping my internet will hold up. It's playing games with the wind at the moment. The first thing I want to say about creativity, and I know this was very much going to be Terry's message, is it's not just about being artistic. And that might sound a bit of an odd thing to say because both Claire and I are artists. But it is about, well, actually, for me, it's about bringing mindfulness into my life. But of course, we can be creative gardeners, we can be creative in the way we cook, the way we present meals, the way we look after people. We can be creative in every interaction we have with other people. We can be creative in the way we look after ourselves. But for me, one of the most important things in being creative is this beautiful quote, which you will have seen when you booked. It's more curiosity than fear. And that comes from Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic. And I just thought that was perfect when I first came across it, because for me it talks about mindfulness as well as creativity. And the beauty of that is, for me, it's just about getting the balance right. You only have to have just a little bit more curiosity than fear. So it's about recognizing that we have a fear, and that fear can be anything. But of course, that fear then tends to tell us that we're not very good. It really plays on the negativity bias in our heads. And it tells us that I can't do this, or I'm not very good at this, or it's not going to be good enough, whatever that means. And then that fear stops us doing whatever it is we want to do. Whether that's picking up a pencil and drawing, or writing a poem, or playing some music, or many, many other things. Fear can stop us. But having that curiosity, I wonder what this can be like. I wonder what will happen if, rather than being controlled by the fear, we then have the opportunity to recognize the fear's there. So we're not pushing it away. We're saying hello to it, of course, which is what Ty would say, but seeing that we don't have to be controlled by it. And so that curiosity in terms of mindfulness is coming back to the breath, just breathing, feeling into the body, feeling where that fear is. For me, it's often in the stomach, and I can feel a little churning going on. And just accepting that that's there, but that doesn't have to be the main thing. And then seeing that and tipping the balance so it's 51% curiosity and 49% fear, then that, to me, that really opens a door into creativity and mindfulness. And so these two, as I say, really, really go together for me. And it's something that Clare and I have worked on over the years. We've offered workshops and courses together on mindfulness and creativity. And on those courses and workshops, they were particularly drawing and writing. But of course, it can be many, many different means. I am going to pass over to Claire in a minute, but I just want to tell you something from my history. I've always done creative things from being very little. I was very fortunate that my mum and my nanan taught me to sew and knit, and my mum did calligraphy, so I learnt that at quite an early age. And in my early 20s, I did an art foundation course. And on that course, one of the tutors said to me in the middle of a life drawing class, "You can't draw, don't draw." And because that was the tutor saying it, I really believed it. And I've still spent all my life doing lots and lots of different creative things, and eventually coming round to making books and then making paper collages. But for a long time, I really believed, but I can't draw. I can do all these amazing craft things, but I can't draw. And then I met Clare, and she led one or two drawing sessions in our Sangha days of mindfulness and on retreat. And of course, she wouldn't accept that. You can't draw. There is that seed of creativity in all of us. It just needs nurturing. It needs practice. It needs watering. And so I am going to hand over to Clare now to hear a little bit from her, and we're going to pass the conversation between us. Thank you.
Yes, well, good morning, and thank you for your presence. So I just jotted down a few thoughts about creativity. So after leaving college, art college, so I was studied for about 6 years. So when I was at college, I used to paint great big paintings, 10 foot by 10 foot. But oddly, when I became a mother, they shrank down to 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters initially. However, what did happen was that I was very fortunate. I was living a little bit away from the sea, but I could see the horizon. So my first studies were literally just the horizon. So no matter how grey it was, how unremarkable the horizon was, I mixed that grey. I recorded that. So that was the beginning of my daily practice. So then, and when I became a mother, no, when I was pregnant, actually, I painted blossom every day. That was my next daily practice. It was nearby. I fell in love with the blossom because it was about the white. So one of the things you do at college is you paint about white. So I was painting the blossom for the white of it. And then I went on to, when I had my little baby, I thought, well, okay, after 6 weeks, I'll start drawing again. And so I kept a notebook, and every day I started drawing for 10 minutes. So initially it was an ear, it was a nostril, and then it became the baby head. And maybe Kev could show you a couple of my drawings of baby heads, just, and then maybe come back just a little. Is that okay? Okay.
Sorry, I'm wondering, have I got the right one, Claire?
Can't see it at the moment. It doesn't
Sorry.
matter. It doesn't matter awfully. And I'm sorry to is it something I should? I'm so sorry, Kev. It doesn't really matter that much. It just shows you what little story marks I was making.
No.
No, never mind, Kev. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think the point here is that, Kev, it really doesn't matter. Because in a way, it was about the mark. So I think the point here was that no matter how, and I left every drawing. Every day there's a little drawing, a nostril, an ear, and then eventually it becomes a little head. And I think the point here was I left whatever it was without judgment, no matter how insignificant. But it made the most beautiful journal of my little boys coming into the world and emerging. And I think also here is another quote. I love this quote. It's from Matisse, and exactitude is not truth. I find that very beautiful. So, yeah, so this was the beginning of my daily practice, the horizon, the blossom, and then the baby emerging. So what I do now, I'm what you call the artist in residence in a walled garden. So I turn up every day and I cherish my subject matter. I literally fall in love with it. And I build up a very profound connection. So a good day's work will be anything from 2.5 hours to sometimes 5 hours. And I have to, and this is all plein air, so this is all outside, next to the subject matter. Now this, so I start by painting snowdrops in the freezing cold, and then I go on to the various blossoms, the apricots, the peach, the prunus, the pear, then the apple, and then I go on to the iris and the foxgloves and the acanthus. Anyway, it's the journey through the year. And I think there's something very important here that I have to, there's just another little quote here I'd like to say, and that is, this is wonderful artist, Maggie Hambling, and she said, it's not the artist that chooses the subject matter. It's the subject matter that chooses the artist. So it's about falling in love with something, and it's that sense of, as Lauri was saying, that sense of wonder. Yeah. Okay. Now I just need to say here that sometimes I have a tendency to be unkind to my body. So for one layer to go on in a painting, it might take an hour to an hour and a half, just one layer. And so I have to be very careful that at points throughout the practice, I get up and I actually practice walking meditation. And I think a very important point here as well is that I need to get in touch with my body as well, because sometimes I can be so concentrated, I don't hear the bird song, and I'm completely unaware of my body. So I become aware of my feet on the floor and my bottom on the chair. So, and then I listen to the bird song because I could get completely lost. There's another very important practice here, and that is impermanence. Okay, it's wonderful. Otherwise, I wouldn't have anything to record. Sometimes I could paint for 2.5 hours, 3 hours. It's washed away in the rain. And it's like maintaining, long live impermanence. It's not always, it's not always that easy. So, I just want to say that I'm in love with the brushstroke. I'm in love with the water and the flow in the watercolor. I want to echo Lauri's sentiment or reflection on anything can be artistic in a way or be done in a creative way. It doesn't have to be painting or drawing. But there's a little bit of me that thinks, well, hey, wait a minute. You know, we do a lot with computers. We do a lot with Word, but there's also the mark. There's also mark making, and I think I'm in love with the mark. I'm in love with the brushstroke and the flow. I want to just and that the drawing is so connected to other art forms. Yes, Word, the beautiful words that Lauri uses, poetry, but also dance and music. They're so connected. And I just want to finish with one other thought, and that is that one of the reflections that came up for Lauri and I when we were offering our creativity courses was there is the beginner's mind. And sometimes my training of the 6 years of art school gets in the way of my beginner's mind and that freshness. And it's about finding that, you talk about a sweet spot or that middle way of, yes, let's be playful. Let's strive perhaps for a little bit of accuracy because nature has all the answers in a way. But it's where it's that middle point between beginner's mind, in a way the untrained, and then the skill and the trained. And also, just to finish, it's a practice. It's my daily practice. It's a practice. And it's about daily doing it. So thank you for listening. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. I hope that's helpful for everybody. There's something else I want to share, and it's a quote from Vincent van Gogh. And it says, "If you hear a voice within you saying you cannot paint, by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced." And again, that was really inspiring to me when I came across it. And I made this image to represent that. But I made it because I thought it's not just about painting. So I made it so you can turn it round. And so we can consider, what else do I say I can't do? If you hear a voice within you saying you can't write, by all means write, and that voice will be silenced. Or what's the next one say? Sing. If you think you can't sing, by all means sing. Love. Create in any sense. And then the last one I put was 3 dots for you to fill in your own, what it is you're saying to yourself that I can't do. And by all means do it. And then that voice will be silenced. And I think that's really important in terms of creativity, and finding, I mean, yes, it's, what Claire said about falling in love with what it is. There has to be a connection, and it doesn't matter what it is. And of course, the beauty of a lot of these things is you don't have to share them with anybody. We're not necessarily doing it to show somebody. It can be just something for us that you scrumple up at the end of the day and put in the bin or throw on the fire or keep it in a little book and never show it to anybody. The important thing is actually doing something and practicing. We talk about a practice of mindfulness, practice of meditation, and a practice of creativity as well is really important. And it's not about, getting it right, and I think that was one of the great lessons I learned from Clare in drawing with her, is often there can be an idea that I want to create what I'm drawing on my page as a kind of photograph. I want to absolutely create it as what I'm seeing. Whereas actually what I'm doing is creating my interpretation of what I'm looking at. And now I understand that, if Claire and I were sat next to each other drawing the same branch or flower or leaf, our interpretation of it would be very different. And there's no good comparing myself and looking at Claire's and kind of going, oh, hers is so much better than mine. It's just different because that's my interpretation of it. And I think that's really important to understand. So there's a lot of working with aspects like acceptance and non-judging, non-striving are really, really important. I'm just wondering, Claire, if there's anything you want to add here before we move on to questions.
Yeah, thank you, Lauri. I think another element is that playfulness and joyfulness. So Ty's teachings are so much about joy, and I think being involved so directly with nature, there is a great sense of joy. And that emphasis on practice, and for me, my painting is almost, or drawings are almost like another being that needs tending and needs care. And I'm going to actually digress a little here and say that it helped me with my bereavement. So yeah, I knew that I needed to tend a being still, and that was my work and my daily practice, and that helped, tending to the joy that enabled me to also deal with or embrace my suffering. So I think for me, drawing, painting, and yes, creativity, whether it be singing or that beautiful quote you've just shared, Lauri, there is joy, just as, not just as there is with Thai's teachings. It's about joy, it's about poetry, and it's about freedom. Anyway, I think I've said enough. It comes from the heart. Thank you.
So I think we are ready to accept questions now, which you can either do what Kev's done and raise your hand, or you can put them in the chat. Kev, do come in.
Kev bowing in. I'm sorry, I just feel a bit bad about not being able to show Claire's art properly when she was sharing it. And I wondered if I could just share them now so that people can see them, because I changed the way I was going to share them and it messed it up. So if I could bring it back, perhaps Claire might just speak through each of them a moment. So Claire, I'm going to share. This should be the first image, should share properly now.
Yeah, that's my little sleeping baby. There's another one as well.
And then there's, so here we've got this one.
The first one's Serenity, and the next one I think is shows my struggle with the mark making.
Oh, thank you. And then you added this one to share as well, so everybody could see.
Yeah, it is actually much brighter pink than that. That's not your screen or anything. It's just difficult to record. It is actually very, very bright pink. And if you look closely, you see all the raindrops on it. So I painted it, and then I went running in undercover. And also somebody described the stamens as like eyelashes. So it's very difficult to paint in between them, but they're like eyelashes. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you. And there's one more. There's one more here.
Yeah, again, it's very, very brilliant. Some color. Somebody said to me, my colors are like sari colors. So in the high summer, I'm using Lauri's favorite color, orange, yellow. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much for sharing those. Thank you.
So I think we do have some questions. Vito is coming up first on my screen, so please ask your question.
Sorry, Vito, you can unmute now. You should be able to.
There we go. There we go. Can you hear me? Have I managed to unmute myself?
You have, yes, thank you.
Good, splendid. Thank you both for a wonderful talk. Oh, it was so wonderful and relaxing and in that moment. And what it brought up from me as I've got older now, I'm in my 80s, and I've always loved dancing. But recently, because of arthritis and a few stiff joints and things like that, I've not been able to do my usual sort of dance in ballroom. So I've not gone to dancing. And then I realized I can dance whenever I want. With your permission this morning, I thought, why don't I just put music on and dance? Who cares about whether or not I can do the right steps anymore or dance with a partner in the same way? I can still dance. So thank you very much indeed for that wonderful talk. Thank you, and give me permission to dance. Thank you.
Thank you, Vito. That's beautiful to hear what it's brought out for you. I'm going to move on to Judith, who has a question, I think.
Thank you very much, Lauri and Claire. That was really encouraging. My question is, I really struggle. I feel I've struggled for years with an intention. I'm very aware that creativity is really helpful for me in every way. My intention all the time is to have some sort of daily practice, particularly either with words, some writing, but especially I would like to do something with art of some sort. And my intention is just to literally, do this, like you were saying, the 10 minutes a day or whatever, 10 minutes, 20, half an hour. But I never manage it. I almost never manage it. And I'm very aware that something is blocking me. I think it is the fear, but I'm wondering if you have any suggestions of just sort of practical things that might enable it, might help me to get over that block and really get into some sort of short daily practice. Be grateful for your help. Thank you.
Perhaps I could offer something here, Judith. I think, we talk about having a shrine or a breathing room or somewhere that we can go to. I think what I would suggest is, first of all, trying to remember or feel in your body, what do I love to do? Is it something, do I love to write with a pencil? I mean, I love a pencil point. What material do I really like? Or you might like a fountain pen. Or you might actually like to draw with charcoal. So just find a medium that you like. Find a view or a corner of your house that you like. And as you know, this quote from Maggie Hambling, it's not the artist that chooses the subject matter, but the subject matter that chooses the artist. So something that maybe just makes your heart beat. It might be the tree out of your window. It might be a vase of snowdrops. Something really small would help. And then just say, okay, I'm going to begin with 1 mark, 2 marks, 5 minutes. And I'm going to turn the page and I'm not going to look at it. And then you look at it the next day. And that's what I did. So, I drew a nostril, an ear. And I could, and so many days I could feel so disheartened. I mean, Lauri knows that, I might out of 7 paintings, I may have only 1 that I feel that I can share. It's that whole thing of picking yourself up and starting again and not being discouraged. But I think I would just say, what mark do I love to make? Sharp pencil, blunt pencil. I do life drawing with really soft paintings, 8B. But you might be like a sharp pencil point with a great deal of precision. What kind of person are you? And I would have a little notebook in a breathing corner, a shrine, whatever you like, and then turn the page and say, okay, I'm not going to look at that for the next 6 days. And when I do look at it, I'm not going to judge it. Because sometimes I might put away a painting and think, oh, this is so rubbish. And then I might look at it again in 6 months' time and think, hey, wait a minute. This is something there that's okay. So, Judith, I don't know if that's helpful. I'll pass over to Lauri. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. That's very helpful. I'm also going to tie it in with a question that's come in the chat, which says, the third word in the title was self-care. Can you say more about that? And although we haven't used that term, I feel that's all we've been talking about, actually. And I think it's self-care in terms of recognizing and this is certainly the case for me, and I know Claire will agree, that actually for me, I start to feel out of sorts if I don't create on a daily basis or regularly. It hasn't always been a daily basis. But in the same way that, so for me, my practice is I get up and the very first thing I do in the morning is I meditate. And that's, for now, that's, as regular as getting dressed or brushing my teeth or anything else that I do. So if I didn't do that, I feel I would notice it. It would feel to me like my day isn't quite starting right. And actually, for me, being creative is the same. If I don't do that almost every day, sometimes I have to acknowledge that being creative isn't always about playing around with pieces of paper, which is what I do when I'm creating paper collages. Sometimes it's being on the computer and doing work for the Be Calm, Be Happy courses. So I have to have a really broad idea of what my creativity is. But so it is about self-care for me. It's about recognizing that this is something that I need to do. It's not just something that I want to do. It is a need. And as Claire mentioned, when she's been sitting for a long time painting, having to get up and move the body, and of course that is all self-care that comes into it. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it there. I don't know. Actually, what I am going to do is move on to Joe's question, please.
Joe Bowing. Thank you very much for your sharings this morning. I found it really inspiring. I wanted to ask Claire, Lauri mentioned that a tutor had once sort of blocked her from drawing. And I wondered in your creative journey if there's been any kind of blocks like that. And if so, how have you overcome them?
Joe, very good question. You bet. Oh my goodness. People in art school are really cruel. So I remember somebody putting up some work and some, I'm going to say it, smart aleck came along and said, I think that's so banal. And you think, actually, come on. I think it's about saying, well, I want to do this. I believe in it. I think it's that whole thing of intention and commitment and also belief in, I value this. Or even if, you might go and see some work like Van Gogh's drawings, think, I love this. Or it's about finding what you love doing in yourself and practice and not listening to your own voice, actually, in some ways. So often when I teach, I say, please never draw to please. Don't try to draw you please yourself, nor to draw and please others, because you can always tell. There's an authenticity and a beauty in an authentic, honest mark. I don't know if this is helping, but I mean, imagine, it actually thankfully it wasn't me that put my work up at art college, but somebody else was. And this, somebody who thought it was so smart. I think it's so banal. You think, if you live through that, you live through anything. So, but, and also when we talk about self-care, it's a bit of compassion, loving yourself and loving your marks as well. But also that whole thing of turning the page and leaving it for a little while. Because today you might think, oh, rubbish. Inner voice, unkind, not a compassionate thought or feeling. But then leave it for a while and look at the drawings or the work, maybe 7 at a time, and you think, actually, that's got an element I'm going to work with. Anyway, Jo, I don't know if that was at all helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Bit of kindness as well.
Thank you so much, Claire and Lauri. I just want to see if we can just get these last. There's a question and also a comment in the chat. The comment is from Patricia, who said, I love dancing and actually danced with my grief around my husband's advanced cancer diagnosis. Embraced both of your talks. Thank you, Trish. And the other question is briefly, I'm sorry to sort of rush through these, but we've obviously got a bit of a timetable. How can I help my daughter who is doing an art degree? So absolutely has to show her work, but is often beset by self-doubt and lack of confidence. I'm hoping that either of you can give a fairly short answer to Carol. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for picking those up, Angie. Yes, I think from my experience, actually, artists are probably the worst critics, self-critics. And something I've really had to work with, and again, this comes into the bringing mindfulness into my practice, particularly last year, was recognizing that selling or not selling my work says nothing at all about its value as a piece of work. I know a lot of people will come and say, when they see my stall, they'll say your work's beautiful, and then they walk away. And part of me is kind of going, if it's that beautiful, why don't you buy something? But of course, not everybody has that capacity. And actually that's not what I'm making for. And what Claire was saying earlier about, not drawing or not creating to please others is really important. And I've seen that in my own work. When I've tried to do that, it just doesn't work. Whereas when I can create something that's from something that I've connected with, it's very, very different. So yes, I am aware we're coming to a break, but thank you so much for your questions and your presence here this morning. Thank you for listening.